Hey everybody, Eddie and Zotto, GamerNode.com. I'm back with another board game review, and this time it's a seafaring adventure. We're going to be sailing from island to island, we're going to be exerting our influence, we're going to be engaging in combat, and we're going to be taking over these different places to earn the most renown by the end of the game. This is Islebound by Ryan Laukat and Red Raven Games, and it's sort of an area control, spatial action selection game, and it's very strategic. We're going to take a look at it, and I'll tell you what I think. Stay tuned. Okay, so this is roughly what Islebound would look like on your table if you had it all crunched together and only one player. You can expect 1 to 3 more of these ship boards. These are your individual player boards where you will be managing your crew and your money and your goods. So that's something that each player is going to have. You have your main board. This is the archipelago where you'll be sailing your ships from island to island to take all the various actions that are allowed at each island and encounter the events and do everything that the game entails. Over here you have the renown board, which includes the renown track. That's the top track there, and those are essentially victory points. And this is the sort of track where you run through it once and start over, and you're going to be taking these 7-point tokens as you go through the game so you can tally them at the end. You have event cards on the left, you have reputation cards on the right, then you have all of your available recruits down there, and this is the treasure map for when you hunt for treasure, and that's where you will be paying your access fee to all the islands. And at the bottom is the very cool influence track, which we'll talk about when we get to diplomacy. So it's a pretty simple game. On every turn, despite the way it looks and all the things that are available, on every turn you do a couple things. So the first thing you have to do is move. You can never stay in the same place, and you can move up to 2 spaces. 1, 2 maximum, unless you have a particular crew member who has the specific sailing icon that gives you an additional speed to your ship, and they have to be on your deck. So then once you've gone to a location, you can hunt for treasure, as I said earlier, which is sort of an action that you only take when you're in need of money, because that lets you take all of the coins that have built up on the treasure map on the renown board, and then you don't get to do anything else. The sort of standard action is to visit the location, and to do that you pay the cost that's on this brown banner to the treasure map I just mentioned, and you then are able to take the action at the town. This would be you pay either a fish or a wood, and you exhaust a worker to get a book. All of the islands have different actions. Some of them give you new pirates, some of them let you rest, some of them give you wood, one of them lets you build using building materials, etc. Some locations on the board allow you to recruit a new crew member. These 3 are always available. This one doesn't cost anything to recruit unless it says otherwise at the location, so you could just take him for free. Whereas these cost a single coin each. Now you don't have to expend an administrator. There's no such thing as like a hiring type person. You just pay the money or get the guy for free. Then these slide down and the next one flips over. And it goes just like that. And you can see these are some above and below characters. Every single one of these has above and below markings on the back of it. So if you have both games, that's pretty cool. I think that's a really awesome addition, especially since I have and love above and below. So that's hiring new crew members. Now the last thing on this renown board are these reputation cards. It's a small stack, and you only make use of them when you visit Farworld, which seems like sort of the capital city of this archipelago. So when you go there, the action shows the trumpet. And what you're doing is you're sort of tooting your own horn. You're bragging about your pirates, or you're bragging of your reach. So you get to take 1 renown point when you do this, and then every player gets to take the lower action. So whatever's on top, the person who has chosen that card, you get to choose one or the other. Person who say I chose this one, I would get 1 renown, and then everyone would get 2 renown for every town they control. So I might choose that one if I have a lot of towns and other people don't. Or I might choose this one if I have a lot of pirates in my employ. Then it goes to a discard pile, and a new one comes up. And that's how the reputation cards work. The next thing you can do is you can attack a location. These towns that have red banners below them are vulnerable to your conquering. And the way that you do that is you spend pirates and sea serpents. You declare how many pirates you're going to be using to attack that location. Then you roll that number of dice, and you assign the dice to each of the characters. So here I got 2, 1, 2, and 1 for a total of 6. Guess what? I failed to take over Rat Nest. And the way that that works, if you can't tell, is if you roll a 1 or more, you get 1 attack strength, guaranteed 1. If you happen to roll a 4, then you get 2 attack strength. And then you apply that to the number hanging below Rat Nest. If I was successful, I would get rid of all of those pirates and take 7 coins as spoils. If I was unsuccessful, like I was, I could discard 1 pirate, take the other 3 back for future use, or I could injure one of my crew members to gain an increase in my attack strength. So that's attacking. And from that point, I would then put my little cube next to that island to show that I own it, and then I would never have to pay this cost again until someone else takes over the island. In this one, some of the islands show that you have to exhaust an administrator just to go to that island. Here up at Moorland, you have to exhaust any crew member. So the third thing that we can do is, say we're back at Zillium, you can use diplomacy. Now, diplomacy works similarly to attacking, except it's sort of the kinder, gentler way. Throughout the game, you're going to be adding cubes to the influence track that I showed you earlier, and that's whenever you see a symbol like that, as on the event cards. So this influence track fills up with all the different players' cubes, and then as players try to ally with these islands, they take those off. So here we have Zillium, which is a 7, and if I'm the red player, I might go 3 plus 3 plus 1 is 7, and then I open up those spots on the influence track, and put my little ownership marker there at that island because I have allied with that island. Now the influence track has opened up for other players to continue to place their cubes on. Once that's full, nobody can place any more until someone uses them for diplomacy. So in that way, the game kind of encourages players to continually keep this influence track recycling out cubes so that you can add more and take over more islands, and other players jump in, then you get them out. It's a really great part of the game. I like the influence track. It's very smart, and it works really well. It's one of my favorite parts of the game. So at that point, you've taken over that island, and you do the same thing. You gain the spoils listed on that banner. Okay, so next up, we have events. Now, events are a free action you take before the end of your turn. If you happen to end your turn at a location that has one of these brown discs, where one of these cards on the renown board indicates there's an event, you can earn the rewards of that event by satisfying the condition on the card. So here, the Underval card says all you need to do is exhaust any one worker, and you get 1 influence cube. And there's a little bit of text. A local blacksmith contracts you. I have some extremely precious star metal that needs to be transported to Thrym. Help me and I won't forget it. So you use a worker to help him, and you gain 1 influence, which can be used later in diplomacy actions. And then the next card comes up, and then we move the event token over to the island that shows up next. And finally, we have building. This is a free action. You can buy buildings in this way by spending the coins listed on the top of the buildings and taking them into your area. Now, the point of the game is to earn renown. That's how you win the game. The player with the most renown wins. But the time track for when the game ends is when a player has built a particular number of buildings, either 7 or 8. And that triggers the end of the game, allows for 1 more game round, and then the game ends and you tally up points. Each building is worth the number of renown that it costs in coins. So coins and renown are somewhat equal in the end, except buildings can give you special bonuses as you play throughout the game. There's a slight element of engine building, although a lot of it is just a certain number of points. For example, you can earn points when a player visits a town you control. You can earn points whenever you gain a building. You can earn points whenever you place a cube on the influence track. These are things that happen persistently throughout the game. Other ones will give you points if you own a particular town at the end of the game. Others might just give you a fish whenever you visit a town. So they do a variety of different things, but they're also the way that you determine when the game ends. So that's a free action, buying buildings. The other way to gain buildings is to build them. You see that there are certain resource costs on the bottom. And if you go to the town called Stratic, way in the background here, it shows that same building icon. When you visit that town, you can take the action there and then build those buildings using the required resources. So Stratic is a way to earn buildings without spending money. An interesting mechanic in this game is this book mechanic. These 3 buildings are not available for players to build or buy unless they have this number of books in their possession. They don't need to spend these books, they just need to have them. It's like requiring a certain amount of knowledge to add these buildings to your home port. Otherwise, these other 2 are available for purchase and building, and as they are bought or built, the cards slide down, making new cards available. So that's building. That's the last free action aside from events, and that is essentially the countdown to game end. Alright, so that's Islebound. In this game, you'll be competing over the different locations on the map, fighting over influence, power, and renown, and ultimately trying to win with the most points. It's a bit of a different beast from a lot of other games. I can't think of many games off the top of my head that play exactly like Islebound, but it is a sort of baby step type game where you're moving ahead in very small increments. You have to plan maybe 4 or 5 moves ahead, but sometimes that backfires on you because other players will be taking the actions that maybe you're looking forward to doing, and they might beat you to some of those events and ruin your plans and cause you to have to restart again to gather different resources to get the different things that you need. Maybe they'll buy the building that you're going for. Maybe they'll take over the island that you were planning to take over. Especially since in a 4-player game, with only 2 of those events out there, you may see 2 events that are no longer there once it comes back to your turn. So it's almost like you have to stop and redirect when things go wrong. But since you have a strategy where moving forward happens in very small increments, a lot of times this can be ruined for you, and that can be kind of annoying. So I think this is a solid game. It has wonderful artwork, and the different actions you can take are interesting, and moving around the map is fun and all that. But I don't think this really ranks up there with Red Raven's best. It doesn't fire on all cylinders for me like Above and Below. And in terms of mechanics, I did say it's somewhat unique in that regard, but I think other games out there may scratch that same itch in terms of moving around a map and taking actions in those spaces on which you land. Maybe having an ultimate goal that you're striving toward and plotting out your course as you go. I often think of Istanbul when I play Islebound because it has that similar idea of a modular map where each location gives you a different action you can take, and you have to plan way ahead, and you have to worry about where other people are going to be. If you land on a space with them, there's a consequence, etc. So the problem with Islebound is I think Istanbul does it a little bit better. And I also have noticed that a lot of times when I'm playing Islebound with a group, some people will sort of check out of the game at a certain point because the prevailing sentiment can be sometimes, I have no idea what I'm doing, I'm just taking actions. This is really a game for forward thinkers. You can really get caught up in looking at the board and thinking, I don't know what to do next. I don't know what's going to be the most effective for me. I don't know how I can optimize my moves moving forward. And that's because things do change a lot and sort of foil your plans. And also, even if you're in the middle of your plan, it's hard to stay your course when you see other things coming up, when maybe following through is the best. As I said before, it is very incremental. So if you like to see a lot of things happening on a turn, on one of your own turns, it's not going to happen much in this game. Every once in a while, you'll be able to take an action, get an event, and buy some buildings, and everything will come together, and things will link up. And there is some engine building if you get the right buildings. And like if you do have a good strategy, you can really pull off some interesting stuff. And the disparity between someone who's able to do that and someone who is just sort of sailing along, flying by the seat of their pants, is a great one. So you can have a player really dominate this game if they're in tune with it, and a player really just fall completely out of the running. It is a positive experience. I do like the game. The art, as I said, is wonderful. The mechanics are interesting. We're going to give it a 3 on the GamerNode scale. So that's a positive game, but it's not one that I would really go and seek out to put in my collection. When I do think of Islebound, I think of other games also that I might want to play ahead of it. So that's my review. Islebound by Ryan Laukat and Red Raven Games. 3 out of 5 from GamerNode. If you like videos like this, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to get all of our new videos as they come out delivered directly to you. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and of course, come visit the site, GamerNode.com. Until next time, I'm Eddie Inzauto. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.